Cool.
Badlands, explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. How are you?
Welcome to The Choice. I guess I should probably just stop expecting you to say welcome to the show each week, because every week I'm waiting for it. And
I'm just but I just feel like you're very good at it. So like I always just kind of wait for you to say hello, because you have a much more pleasant way of doing it than me. So I'm yeah.
That's true. I think you're quite pleasant. I'm loving the beard. The beard looks great. I sent you a beard brush yesterday.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. You're gonna like it. And speaking of beard brushes, let's hear from us at Soft Disclosure.
The following ad is rated M for mature. Soft Disclosure wants you to get naked this Valentine's Day with limited edition his and her bundles that save you 20% off the individual retail prices. Proprietary oil infusions, grass-finished beef tallow, goat's milk from American goats, locally grown herbs and ingredients. Soft Disclosure is putting America First fruits on your skin.
And for these sexy bundles, we've added an all-new boar's haired beard brush and a solid jade gua sha. And the reason I'm here is because Alpha doesn't know how to say these words.
Kusha. His, hers. We need a moment to calm down. Don't hide your skin. Disclose it. Get naked this Valentine's Day with Soft Disclosure. Head over to softdisclosure.com and save 20% off individual retail prices with our his and hers customizable bundles, and use promo code NAKED to save 15% off the rest of the site. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
I love that ad so much.
I know. It's so good.
Oh, Alpha is the gift that keeps on giving, and he's all about it. I had a conversation with him yesterday about that, about the affiliate program and everything for Soft Disclosure, and we have some exciting things planned and coming this year. So stay tuned. If you're on the fence about getting the Valentine's bundles for your Valentine on Valentine's Day, then you should buy them today, because if you want them to arrive in time for Valentine's Day, then you need to get them in the mail. So order your bundles today. They're really beautiful. I'm super proud of these gifts. They look awesome. We're also going to hear from our friends.
You deserve more than sluggish mornings and blood sugar spikes. Discover the simple daily system that helped so many regain health without dieting or exercise routines. 2 easy to take daily drinks. a brain-boosting, appetite-suppressing morning blend that ushers in energy and clarity. A hearty, fiber-packed pre-meal drink that stabilizes blood sugar, aids digestion, and fights cravings. It's a gentle, science-backed path to improved metabolism, renewed vitality, and lasting weight control. Feeling better starts with this simple 2-step daily protocol.
Head over to badlandshealth.com to get started today. You've got nothing to lose with their 90-day money-back guarantee. That's badlandshealth.com. All right, and we'll get to our final sponsor later in the show. So,
but shout out to Native Path for sponsoring the show today. So
it's in the show. I'm telling you guys, this is one of my favorite products that we. Yeah, I love the mug too. I
know. It's like a nice size and
right now, but I do. It's great. It's got a cool shape to it. It's sturdy construction.
Yep. And it's got the thing on the bottom, like the, I guess, ceramic paint, so that it doesn't leave rings. I like that.
Yeah, and they're awesome because they support this show. So we'll talk more about their products a little bit later in the show. So this episode is called The Perfect Opportunity. And powerful show, different kind of, formula, flow, structure than some of the other shows. We're going to go through it a little bit differently than we usually do.
It's kind of like the closest thing to like an anthology series. Like an anthology series is where either every episode or every season is like a standalone with totally different, like unrelated storylines, characters, etc. Kind of like Black Mirror. Like Black Mirror would be considered like an anthology series. And so for that reason, I was telling Ash, right before the show, I sent the link to the episode to, not this episode, but the episode of the actual show, to Burning Bright, and was like, hey man, you should watch this. Yeah. I've been talking about this show for a long time, and I think if he started watching the show, he would get really into it because he's obviously loves storytelling. But this one specifically, it doesn't focus, like Jesus and the disciples are almost not even in it. Like they're barely in it. It really just focuses on these two new characters, and of course, like mixed martial arts and the whole assassin angle is part of it, the cat and mouse of it all. So I think I could see Burning Bright, like this could be the episode that gets him into the show.
And gets him into the Bible, which is the goal.
Yeah,
right?
which is the ultimate goal, is to get him reading.
Even though we know once he does read the Bible, he's going to be insufferable about it. We still want him to read the Bible. So,
well, I mean, that passage I shared with the group before about Jesus talking about bringing division, like that, he was like, his mind was blown by that. So, there's a lot of epiphanies I think he'll have with it. There's
a lot of that. There are a lot of commonly held beliefs about the Word of God by people who've never read it, based on things that people have said that are just outright false. And that is a moment for a lot of people when they actually read the Bible. And it's like, oh, well, this isn't what everybody said. What's this? But this is a great episode. So the intro is kind of the backstory. So we get the backstory of Simon the Zealot. Now, the majority of the events, some of the events in this episode are from the Bible. Mm-hmm. However, the majority of this is a fabrication. So, and I have a whole bunch of stuff, but I thought it was interesting that the intro that gives us kind of the backstory of how Simon the Zealot came to be who he was and who his brother was. And the two characters are not related in the Bible. Both of them are biblical characters, the paralytic and Simon the Zealot, but they're not connected in any way. The showrunners chose to connect them and to give us this backstory, and we'll talk through all of that. But the intro scene that shows their from childhood up to present day in the show is 17 minutes long.
Is it really? That's interesting. I love I just think this is like one of the really, really well done episodes, especially considering that there's so many liberties taken, like artistic license taken with it. Like, as you said, it introduces us to two of the most interesting characters, I think, in the whole series, which is Simon Zebulon, as they call him. Zebulon, I believe, is a fictitious name, but Simon the Zealot, I think, is how he's known in the Bible.
And that's so interestingly. Actually, I'll let you finish about your second character, and then I'll tell you about Simon the Zealot in the Bible.
Yeah, well, just the other one is Atticus, who's also a fictional character. But I just think he is one of the most fascinating, dynamic, nuanced characters in the whole series.
Is this where we first meet Atticus?
I believe it is. If somebody might correct me in the chat, but they make a point of like showing him first. They show him a few times, and then they give us the exposition of the two soldiers talking about him, and they're like, "Oh, he's one of he's one of those ghosts. He's one of those special forces, basically like Roman special forces." And they're like, "Yeah, he's like kind of a spy, kind of an assassin, kind of like just a special operative, basically for the Roman Empire."
Oh, interesting. So I've seen, we've talked about it. I've watched the show now. This is probably the 4th or 5th time I'm going through it. And it didn't occur to me that this is his first intro.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that duality of those two characters being introduced. There's also a lot of duality happening between Jesus and Z, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, there's definitely those are the two characters that I think are kind of supposed to be almost mirrors of one another in some ways. Just because of their background, they are the characters in the whole, like in the central plot that are that have like formal military training, basically, right? They have like formal training to engage in combat. They're disciplined. I mean, we see that in the future with Simon Z. He's highly disciplined, self motivated, all those kinds of things. And obviously very, very smart when it comes to Atticus. Like he's probably the most calculating, or among the most calculating, in a very, very wise way throughout the show. He just understands the society, I think, like inside and out.
Yeah, and so he's a character too that we sort of watch evolve over time. And you start out kind of from a place of, I'm just looking to see what his first episode was. And it's like he has one more upcoming, but I can't find what I'm looking for. We see him kind of in the same light as like Simon or Matthew would initially, right? He's Roman. He's, kind of the intel community of the Romans, and intel combined with special forces kind of application of the Roman Empire. But he's very smart. And we see in this scene where he's talking to the, I forget what the guy's name is, the guy wearing all the robes in the beginning, where he's like, "Could you look more Roman?" Pretorius. Yeah. So he's, kind of knocks him down a peg. Doesn't seem to have the same reverence for Roman chain of command, etc. That the other, like that Gaius, for example, has, right? Gaius has a fear of the chain of command that Atticus doesn't have. And we find later that, Atticus is friends with people in high places. But we watch him as he's watching and informing on Jesus and his disciples. We kind of see him shift over time, which is a beautiful thing, I think. Yeah,
I love that arc. And you're right. Like Gaius is kind of like a soldier, right? Like he highly respects the decorum, the chain of command, whereas Atticus very much operates outside of the paradigm. Like he's like kind of like the way Trump operates outside of the political paradigm. Atticus is almost like an observing audience member, where he like kind of recognizes it for what it is, and he's like, all right, well, like he'll call it out all the time. Like he'll be like, hey, you are supposed to be subservient to you. Like he's always pointing out when people are breaking the decorum, but he himself does not necessarily follow the decorums, So
yeah. So interesting, and I hadn't thought about this before, but this being his first entry, then it is kind of the zealots that bring him into the story, right? Yes. Because he's tracking the order of the zealots and somehow knows about the assassination attempt before it happens. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So who is Simon the Zealot? In the Bible, Simon the Zealot is named in every canonical list of the disciples, of the apostles, across Matthew, it's verse 10:4, Mark, verse 3:18, Luke 6:15, and Acts 1:13. And that's it. He's just named in a list. We don't have a backstory. We don't have any, any kind of, so it's all an invention, what we see in the show with Simon the Zealot. I don't necessarily have a problem with what they did, but I think it's important to understand kind of the decision, the choices that they made in the
Yes.
show. So they've chosen to have zealotry, and particularly Simon the Zealot, be a part of this cult, this kind of, militant, maybe it's a precursor to Mossad kind of thing, right? That it's this Jewish order of highly trained assassin types.
It's an assassin cult.
Yeah, like an
assassin's guild, basically. It's like an assassin's guild. Although I don't know if they operate as mercenaries. I think they operate from more of like an ideological mission, like that sort of drive. But yeah, and the idea. I mean, honestly, I actually saw it more as of like just the irony, like Hamas. It's like more like Hamas in the Roman occupation is like the IDF, right, in Gaza. And I mean, there's a lot of irony there, and it's like that the first 17 minutes is so tragic. I mean, just the whole storyline of Jesse falling out of the tree and becoming a paralytic. His parents obviously love him very much. His father obviously, has done well for himself. You can see that they live comfortably. He sees his son suffer, like he sees his son not suffering like from like he's not moping, but he's certainly like being left out of all the games, obviously. So he takes him to the mystic in the beginning, and he's obviously paying large bags of money to mystics and pagans to just to do whatever they can to try to like faith healing. It seems like they're kind of trying everything to see if they can fix this kid. And then of course the wife gets pregnant again, has a baby, dies in childbirth. You see the father struggling to like cook food and take care of the kids while he's obviously probably trying to, I imagine, run some sort of a business, whatever he does to provide for them. And then eventually they grow up and they get to a point where you don't see the father anymore, but he may or may not still be alive. We later learn that Simon is probably like 14. He's probably because he says he's almost 40 later, and then Jesse says, "Wow, I've been here for 25 years."
25 years, yeah.
So he's probably like 14 when he writes the note saying, "I'm leaving." Before that, by the way, like the kids are playing, and Simon stops them and says, "Hey, let's go circle around Jesse so he can play too."
There's a lot of that. The love of the two brothers, right? That's and you see, I think through, and it's montage. There's no dialogue. You're watching these scenes play out as they grow up, and you see young Simon is including Jesse is, wants him to be a part of it. They're very close. You get the sense they're very close. Simon is pushing him around on a cart as they're growing up. They're teenagers, right? You say he's about 14, and he sees the Roman soldiers beating the crap out of some guy in the street.
Yeah. And you can see the hate. You can see the hate forming. You can see it forming, and it's like, yes.
There's like a resolve in his face. And this is important because it is a moment that breaks their relationship. And it comes back around in the end when they see each other at the pool and Jesse reads the letter to him. Is his radicalization, right? And running after being the guy, being part of the order that's going to save the nation of Israel, save the people from Roman occupation. It takes him away from his family. And there's something very real about that.
Oh my gosh, it's so real. It's like he's like Luke Skywalker going to go fight the Empire, right? To save everybody, to liberate everyone from the Empire.
Couldn't have come up with a more real example, Ghost.
Yeah. But I'm saying it's like that is like the cultural analogy, right? That's the analogy that I think if you were speaking to somebody who knew nothing about the Bible or this show or the story, just explaining it in those terms, it's very like they would immediately understand that that's the analogy. In his eyes, like that's what he's doing, and it's because he's bought into a story that the Sanhedrin has taught them, an interpretation of the Bible, which says, hey, the revolution, the revolution that the Messiah is going to lead is going to be a kinetic one, a military campaign against our oppressors, which is, ostensibly the Roman Empire.
And it depends on you and your works, right? We saw that in the Christmas specials. The Messiah is never going to come as long as you guys, are so dirty and stupid and not being holy enough. The Pharisees said to the shepherd and that kind of orientation, that it's our works, it's the human works and the human orientation that's going to make the Messiah come, is a complete inversion.
Yeah. And the other thing that we see here is like because I was watching Story Hour yesterday, and the night before, honor culture. Like they were talking about honor culture, and because they did Troy, so they were talking about the Iliad, which is the book is the Iliad, but Troy was the movie. That's the story of the sacking of Troy, the Trojan horse, Achilles versus Hector, all that stuff. And so just the idea of honor culture, which very much is still a part of the East,
Very
whether you're talking
Asian
it's
today.
very Asian. So whether you're talking about the Middle East or you're talking about China or you're talking about Russia,
India, it's a thing in India as well.
yeah, India, it's like honor culture is just a very like even in Africa, you can find it to some extent. Honor
That takes
culture is
on different applications, right? I mean, in some
for sure.
cultures, it's, you know, you kill your children if they dishonor you. In other cultures, you're just super embarrassed about things that Americans would generally wave off, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think at its root, like when it comes to the dichotomy of the sovereign alliance versus the unipolar hegemony, like modern day and the modern convention, I think like the way Sergei Lavrov kind of breaks it down is it's just like, are you a man of your word? Do you say something and then do it? Or are you somebody who speaks out of both sides of his mouth? Are you like a snake that deceives, right? It's like
Let's be honorable.
yeah. So
and
like that's the essence of being honorable. Yeah.
It's also core principle of Badlands. This is one of the things that I talked about with John when I first joined Badlands, is that, you know, I don't care what people's ideas are. I don't like, I will talk to and engage and debate with anybody. Just be honorable. Don't be a scumbag. Don't be somebody. And it wasn't that I was saying that about John. It's just that values alignment is why I'm at Badlands, is because
Same.
that's a core of, you know, we all disagree. We fight behind this, not fight, but, you know, debate behind the scenes all day, every day. Right.
Yep.
All of us
vigorously,
different
yes.
ideas, but every single one of us would, you know, protect the other one, stand in front of the other one. Don't be a scumbag. Don't lie to people's faces. Don't tell the public some big, you know, story that makes you the hero and then be an absolute scumbag behind the scenes. Those kinds of things. That's what needs to change, I think, in our culture, American and the world.
That's what's lost. That's what's lost in Western civilization.
Which
sure.
I would not have equated to honor culture, right? I see honor culture in the modern application, the way the Asians, you know, apply that, the way I'll go to Asians in India because that was where I took training of, you know, cultural training. And
you went to India. You went to India to do training.
Well, I went to India because I was doing training for a project, but to go to India, I had to take culture training, and the culture training talked about honor culture. So that's where it's, you know, that's
interesting.
How
did they present it?
It was the concept of face, right? And saving face. And the net takeaway was you have to hold them down to their agreements, because they will agree to anything. It's a matter of pride and a source of honor for businesses in that country to get, you know, win all the work and then figure out how to do it later. And that leads to a lot of problems when you're taking core functions out of the US and moving them into a different country, and it'll fall apart and break if it's not transition. And I was kind of part of the team that was managing those transitions of that work. I've already talked about this. Very sorry, everyone. Sorry I moved jobs overseas. I'm atoning for it for the rest of my life. But it was in the training. The training I had was aspects of the culture and how it applies to business and business negotiations and working in teams, you know, integrated teams with people from that culture. So, and honor culture is different in Asia than it is in India. It's, you know, it's a different monster, but
For sure.
different we mean when we talk about being honorable too.
Well, the reason I laugh is because when I graduated from college in 2010 and there were like literally no jobs for anybody, I went into residential real estate in the worst real estate market of all time. Of course, working 100% commission.
What year?
2010. And so like the you know, like I was recruited by a friend's like uncle who I met at like a graduation party. He was super just boisterous and charismatic, and I mean he was great at what he did, just like a natural salesman, not in like a sleazy way, just in like a very natural way. But he his team that he put me on, like they would just feed me every Indian client that anyone of them came across. They'd be like, oh yeah, give it to him, because none of them wanted to deal with the Indians. And the reason, like, they called them horse traders because of exactly what you said. They would sign a contract and then or they would have like verbal agreements for verbal negotiations. And then when it came time to sign, like we were all sitting down signing the contract, they'd say, actually, I want an extra $10,000, or, hey, realtor, I want you to give me half of your commission. And it's like, no, that's actually illegal. You can't do that. Like stuff like that. Like they would just try to negotiate at the very last minute. And it was so frustrating to deal with, because you would be like, dude, we've been working on this for months and we all were on the same page. And now all of a sudden you're rugging all of us, so it's just so funny to hear you say that's like formally recognized
trained on it.
In corporate America. So I don't mean that when I say honor culture. When I say honor culture, I'm referring more to like the Doha Agreement, where Trump signed an agreement with the Taliban that said, hey, we're going to give you your country back, your sovereignty back, but in exchange, you're going to hunt down terrorists and kill them. And when Trump left office and the Abbey Gate was bombed and the Taliban went and killed those ISIS-K guys who did it, and they came out and said, yeah, we did it because we gave Donald Trump our word that we would do it. So we did it. It's like, that's honor culture, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's right. I think the key is this, it means different things upon in different cultures, and the sense and concept of honor is different in different cultures. And I think we see that in this episode, the matter of honor for Simon the Zealot, probably would have been similar to the matter of honor, the way you'd evaluate honor for Simon the fisherman, except Simon the fisherman met Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And Simon the Zealot hasn't met Jesus yet. Even at the end of this episode, he hasn't met him yet. His brother has, but he hasn't met him yet. So I thought that was interesting. Back to kind of how, so as I said, Simon the Zealot is mentioned in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Acts. And he is listed in every canonical list of the apostles as one of the apostles, but we don't have anything else about him. We have zeal and zealotry being treated bicamerally in the Bible. So you have both, I have written here, the Bible treats zealotry as both virtue and danger, depending on what it's attached to and how it's expressed. In scripture, zeal equals intense passion, devotion, or jealousy for something believed to be righteous. It's morally neutral. What matters is the object, what you're zealous for, the method, how that zeal is expressed, and the authority, whether it aligns with God's will or replaces it. So if you think about what Simon the Zealot is about to do in this episode, he's about to commit murder. Now, they believe it's righteous because the Romans are bad guys and they have to, be the conquering force from the shadows. And so the object is, what are you zealous for? The liberation of Israel, I would say, or the liberation of God's people from Roman occupation is probably what they're most zealous for. The method, well, they're going to commit murder. And what authority? Does committing murder align with the will of God, or does it replace it? Are you replacing God's will? Turn the other cheek. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God's. Or are you saying, well, God says we can commit murder. Jesus said he came to bring a sword. So that means we can, take swords to everyone.
Right.
Yep. That's not what that means.
So sell your cloak and buy one, right? That's the quote that's always used to justify the bloodlust. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's off, right? He has zeal for something seemingly righteous, liberation of the people from Roman occupation, but his method and his authority for doing it is not of God. The method is actually a known sin. It is a commit, thou shalt not kill. Right. So you're going back to the beginning. That is not aligned with God's will. And he's, taken his direction from that haggard looking guy out in the hills, wherever those zealots are training. So just to round that out, Simon's identifier as Simon the Zealot is descriptive, not institutional. Luke 6:15, Simon who was called the Zealot. Matthew 10:4, Simon the Canaanian, which is not Canaanite or related to Canaan. It's from the word kanai, which means zealous. So they're describing a characteristic of Simon, not an institutional orientation or organization that he's a part of. It says in the biblical usage, this functions like the fisherman, the tax collector, or the twin is what this wrote down. It tells you what he was like, not who he belonged to. Modern retellings, including The Chosen, retrofit later political clarity onto earlier individuals. But historically, this is getting into what is zealotry, because there was a party, there was kind of a cult of zealotry, but it was before Jesus's ministry. Jesus would have been a kid when this happened. It was in AD 6. Rome formally annexed Judea as a province, and you're going to love this. You're going to love this, Ghost. Rome annexed Judea as a province. The governor Publius Sulpicius Quirinius ordered a census for taxation, and that triggered a tax revolt led by Judas the Galilean. This event is described by Flavius Josephus. This is an extra biblical text, but in a couple of different places. But it's also mentioned in Acts 5:37, which I thought I had up here. I don't. We're processing. So Acts 37, I'm going to read 36 and 37. I lost my place. Actually, I'll just read this whole paragraph. So this is at Acts 5, starting at verse 33. When they heard this, they were enraged and wanted to kill him. This is Peter. They want to kill Peter, Simon, who said, "We must obey God rather than men. The God of our fathers raised Jesus, whom you killed by hanging him on a tree. God exalted him at his right hand as leader and savior to give repentance to Israel and forgiveness of sins. And we are witnesses to these things. So it is the Holy Spirit whom God has given to those who obey him." Now, he is talking to the high priest of Jerusalem when he says that in Acts 5. And then what do the listeners of that message? Verse 33. When they heard this, they were enraged and wanted to kill them. But a Pharisee in the council named Gamaliel, teacher of the law, held in honor by all the people, stood up and gave orders to put the men outside for a little while. And he said to them, "Men of Israel, take care what you are about to do with these men. For before these days, Theudas rose up, claiming to be somebody, and a number of men, about 400, joined him. He was killed, and all who followed him were dispersed and came to nothing. After him, Judas the Galilean rose up in the days of the census and drew away some of the people after him. He too perished, and all who followed him were scattered." So Josephus's telling of this story of Judas the Galilean is found in scripture. Just it's one line, right? So in the present case, I tell you, keep away from these men and let them alone. For if this plan or this undertaking is of man, it will fail. But if it is of God, you will not be able to overthrow them. You might even be found opposing God. So they took his advice, and when they had called in the apostles, they beat them and charged them not to speak in the name of Jesus and let them go. Then they left the presence of the council, rejoicing that they were counted worthy to suffer dishonor for the name. And every day in the temple from house to house, they did not cease teaching and preaching that Christ is Jesus.
Nice. Yeah, my notes, I have that Simon is referred to as the zealot in 4 spots. It might be more, but Matthew 10:4, Mark 3:18, Luke 6:15, and Acts 1:13 all use the term Simon the Zealot to refer to him. And that's a great history that you just gave there. I'll add that, again, my understanding is that in 66 AD, so this would have been 33 years after Jesus was crucified, if I'm not mistaken.
What is
66 AD, because he would have been crucified in 33.
On or around, yes.
Yes. So it says that the Great Jewish Revolt began, and that was because Rome had introduced an imperial cult worship. The Zealots then responded by overtaking Jerusalem, but the revolt was unsuccessful because that then led to the retribution from Rome in 70 AD, which is when they came into Jerusalem and destroyed the temple, which again is something that Jesus foretold was going to happen. He damned Jerusalem and said, "You've turned your back on God, and therefore, you're damned. And then the zealots, the remnant of the zealots, then went and took refuge in Masada. And so, yeah, like even like these notes that I'm reading that I'm come across are even kind of describing, they're like that the zealots, because the zealots often used like asymmetrical warfare, like violent tactics, they're often kind of described as like the proto terrorist, quote terrorist. I mean, depend again, all depends on your perspective. Some people would call them terrorists, some people would call them freedom fighters.
That's
but
true
again,
of every terrorism.
Exactly. And so I want to real quick, I have like a 22-second clip.
Before you play the clip, I just want to say one more thing about Simon, and particularly Jesus in this context. While Jesus was growing up, Rome annexed Judea, Quirinius' census was imposed, Judas the Galilean led a tax revolt, the seeds of zealotry were planted, and political anger was brewing. So when we see Simon and Andrew angry at the beginning of this, hating on Rome, right? Simon can't even fathom that the Messiah is actually coming when, before they meet him. That was long. It was this, the seeds of this were brewing, right? But importantly, Jesus was not involved in any of it. And that matters because later on, they try to paint Jesus as just another. We kind of heard it in that passage in Acts 5. As during this season of time of Roman occupation in the land, there were lots of Messiah type figures who, rose up and claimed to be the guy. Some of them didn't claim to be the guy. They claimed to be the one preparing the way, kind of like the John the Baptist character.
False prophets.
Yeah, but there was a lot of that. And later on, after Jesus's death and resurrection, they historically tried to rewrite it as though he was just another one of these guys, right? Mm-hmm. The only one of the guys that we're still talking about, we still believe in, we still call Lord. So just keeping that
that is interesting. That is interesting. Yeah. And, there's an interesting, like, we'll get into it more when we get into the content, but there's an interesting kind of dichotomy there where Simon Peter was had kind of given up like on his faith, right? He had turned his back, even like unwittingly kind of turned his back on his faith, become very secularly focused, was convinced the Messiah wasn't coming. And that led to one form of sin, right? Versus Simon Z is certain the Messiah is coming, is kind of fueled by like an ideology, like faith driven. You kind of see that in the montage of him training. However, but what's fueling that is a bloodlust and like a desire for revenge and ultimately that. So that's a different form of sin. It's like, I'm going to go kill in the name of my God. So it's like two different
of the heart too, right? Yeah. And like Jesus says, it's all about the heart. It's all about the condition of your heart.
Different hardenings though, because both of them had hardenings of the heart, but for different reasons. One of them because he was certain the Messiah was coming. The other because he had kind of given up on the idea of the Messiah and become cynical, right? So it's an interesting like dichotomy. I want to play this video. This is not from the show. This is we don't normally get into politics here, but this is just very relevant. This is from months ago, but this is a video of Benjamin Netanyahu.
We want to know what you're reading now.
What I'm reading?
Yeah.
It's a book by a historian by the name of Barry Strauss. It's called The Jews Against Rome. Jews Against Rome.
What made you pick it up?
So we lost that one. I think we have to win the next one.
Yeah.
Who's occupying them now?
Yeah, well, exactly. And well, so the assertion by a lot of people is that he's talking about like the UN, the West, Trump, the US. Like he's basically talking about the US, like holding them back from achieving their destiny, right? Like that's the oppressor.
Isn't that the argument? And then I promise everybody we won't belabor this, but isn't that the argument that Laura Loomer uses for why we shouldn't provide Israel with any aid any longer because it holds them back?
Kind of, yeah. It's like it's a double-edged sword, but again, like I just want to point
perfectly fine with stopping all foreign aid, by the way.
Yeah, but like just the irony of when you watch the first 17-minute montage and you watch Simon Z get indoctrinated, like you see him not even get indoctrinated, you just see him turn. Like you see, like he's watching people being beaten in the streets by this military occupation, right? And his people getting oppressed, and then that drives him to abandon his family and go join a militia basically that he's convinced is going to, like, the freedom fighters, right? And that is, you have to imagine, that is like, how many times has that probably happened with Hamas? Like, while I don't consider Hamas to be in like an earnest organization, I think it was probably created by nefarious people like intelligence, maybe even Mossad, as a controlled opposition dynamic. I do think the people who end up joining it are doing so earnestly because of that exact scene where they're watching this stuff happen to their neighbors. Their family gets killed, their house gets bombed out, their neighborhood gets destroyed, their livelihood gets taken, and they're like, what else do I have to live for? It's like, I mean, what else is there to do other than just to pick up a gun and fight? And that is like why the argument of bombing your way to peace is so antithetical to truth and abandons that. But the final point I'll make there is, murder, I think, is kind of universally recognized in almost every culture as like, that's like the one thing of natural law that you shouldn't do. I think every culture,
except honor killings, Ghosts.
Well, yes, I mean, that's why I say almost every culture. It's like, it's basically but again, that's an honor killing is like a retribution thing. Like, I'm saying just cold-blooded murder.
Yeah,
it's considered like, that's the one thing you're not supposed to do. You're not just supposed to
splitting a very fine hair there, but okay.
Yeah, but I'm just saying you're not supposed to kill. And
agreed.
so they're now going and killing people, not necessarily as acts of retribution, but because they think this is part of a political scheme to get them to the point of revolution, right? Much like Hamas with the IDF.
But I think this goes back to what is, so it's zealotry as an order, we'll set aside for a moment. Yeah. Zeal as a virtue or a vice, it depends on whether, from a Christian worldview standpoint, it depends on what you're zealous for. Are you zealous for the glory of God, or are you zealous for retribution for the wrongs that have been done for you? Because oftentimes those things are at odds because God tells you to turn the other cheek. God tells you to let things happen. God tells you to show humility in the same way that his son did when he came and walked the earth. We're supposed to look, the body of Christ is supposed to look like the life and ministry of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was not going after the Romans and setting plots to entrap and ensnare and kill them. He was going after the hearts of men. And that is what it is to be. So I find this episode and particularly this backstory of Simon really relatable, because I think all of us, Badlanders, hosts and audience members, have been radicalized a little bit, right? Yep. We've seen something that it was a point of no return kind of moment, whether that was the CSAM SRA stuff, whether it was election fraud, whether it's foreign policy related, and we've been lied. Why are we conquering the world? We've been lied to. There are moments, I think, for each of us, we can point to a moment where it was almost a point of no return. And so I find that very relatable, but it has also been, I've talked about like the, very dismissive of the Q movement until I saw everybody finding Jesus in it. Not just finding God, not just talking in, vague platitudes about, spiritual wars and God winning, but actually finding Jesus through that process. That's what, because that zeal was grounded in something true and just and righteous. It wasn't. Now, it has turned in a lot of ways, and it has become an obsession. It has become something where they are, some certain people are zealous about being right, or zealous about the retribution, or zealous about punishment, not zealous for the glory of God. But it started out in a different way, at least in my experience with it. And that is the key distinction. We can see Simon the Zealot is going to be a great assassin, or he's going to be a great apostle. He can't be both. And it is, it's Jesus that makes a difference.
That whole idea that you just presented, I think, is something that really needs to be examined. I think the time for me to examine it is going to be I think it's the next episode. It's either the next one or the one next after that. I won't spoil it for those who are watching the show as we go. But that is such an excellent point. And I think, it's like the zeal turns into zealotry at a certain point, and you become that organization, that Simon goes and joins.
Just to round this out, Simon the Zealot in the Bible was not in a cult. He was not an assassin. He was a man with zeal, ostensibly for the Lord, righteous zeal, where the object was the glory of God and the tactics were consistent with the Spirit of God. But it took Jesus to get him there.
Yes. All right. So I want to watch this first scene, and then I want to. I probably will skip ahead a minute or two to the meeting between him and Manisham, who's the leader of their order.
I asked for 8 because you don't know how to count. I asked for 8, 6. That is not acceptable. I'm sorry, Lisa. Last time we had the same problem. I asked you for 8. No, you take this back and you bring me 8 like I asked. No, 8. Fire! No, Lord, but God.
Okay, so I love the way that this is shot because obviously this is a training exercise, right? They've built this fake marketplace. You kind of learn through this this discussion they have here that this was a test for Simon, and it appears that he was basically tasked with, all right, you need to kill this target. Here's the target you have to take out. Do it however you like. You're free to figure it out on your own, but don't tell us. Like, figure it out. And so he then has somebody else start a fire. It distracts everybody, right? And then while everyone's distracted, he walks up and performs the act. And then we see that same tactic he tries to use later. But again, like this right here, what you're looking at, this little like fake set, the fact that it was presented to the audience that way, it's like a deception within a deception. There's an inception thing happening there. I like that. Like, there's like a fourth wall thing. Just from like a filmmaking storytelling standpoint.
Well, it reminds me of I just rewatched the series Jack Ryan, and how when the CIA and working with special forces guys are planning an operation, they run through it 1,000 times in a warehouse somewhere.
Oh yeah,
and this is the same kind of activity being set up here. Also important, and this doesn't come back around, I don't think, but someone in this ecosystem is informing to Atticus.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's a really, really like important dynamic that I don't think the show gets into enough.
It doesn't, I don't think.
But that is the implicit logic there. And you're right. Like, the way that they would do this in real life, like today, the anecdote you just gave is they would basically get blueprints of the exact place they're going to go. They would build out to the exact inch of what it looks like, and then they would just run through training exercise after training exercise, scenario after scenario of what happens if this happens, what happens if that happens, kind of like a game theory, like in real time sort of environment.
Yeah.
And then you look at this set right here that they've built. This would have required money and know-how and knowledge. I mean, they have resources. This is not just like a bunch of crazies living in the woods. This is an institution that has financial backing. They have masons, they have carpenters, they have people who can build something like this for them. I mean, and they obviously have done it in a remote place where the Romans haven't found them. So, there's definitely like a whole underlying lore around this that's not really fully examined in the show, but I think is there.
Yeah. I also think it's very, and pause for a second before you play it. But I think it's very appropriate that this ancient version of like intelligence community / special operations forces has someone informing with the Romans. Maybe it's the head guy. Right.
Right.
Not to be terribly cynical. We're also going to say goodbye to YouTube now, because we're starting to play clips. So if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like button and then head over to Rumble or X or Pilled, and you can join us there. The Rumble chat is fire, so you'll definitely have an enjoyable time. But we are going to say goodbye to YouTube. So thank you, everybody on YouTube. Come over to Rumble and hang out with us.
Yeah, for sure.